I'd like to call the meeting of the Hayden City Council to order. It is Tuesday, October 26, 2021, and it is 5 o'clock, and we are located in City Council chambers. Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Sorry.
Thanks. We have a quorum. Joe Raymond, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
To minimize.
Can we just mute all? Thank you. So if somebody joins, they're not under the mute. Abby?
No.
Okay. Additions or corrections? I want to make Can they hear me? Folks, if you're online, can you please mute? The things that you're saying you probably don't want us to be hearing. And so just know that you're being heard on the record. So thank you very much. Additions or corrections? To ensure time with respect to item 4 and item 5, I'm moving item 4 till after the consent calendar, item 5 till after item 4, and item 3 till after item 5. If you've got that, those that are algebra majors. Those are the only changes that I have to the agenda. Are there any additional additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, we can move forward, but I want to make sure we'll have an individual speak. Art Collins, and Art had said that something else was online with respect to agenda. So if you can, we just want to make sure that our agenda is consistent with what's online. So you can touch base with Art in case there's any concerns. Moving to agenda 1, proclamation of Extra Mile Day. Whereas Hayden is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Hayden, Idaho is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Hayden, Idaho is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas the Hayden City Council acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 550 extra mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2021. And whereas Hayden, Idaho acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 500 extra mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day. Abby, is the 500 and the 550, is that a typo?
Likely.
Okay, so it's 500?
Corrected.
Thank you. And is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2021. Now therefore, I, Stephen J. Griffiths, Mayor of Hayden, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2021 to be Extra Mile Day. And I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in their own life, but to acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, or world a better place. Consent calendar item 2A, approval of October 12th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. B, approval of agreement with the Spokane Conservation District to provide urban forestry services. 2C, acceptance of Niall and Jane Shirley right-of-way dedication deed and grant easement. D, approval of fiscal year 2021 audit engagement letter with Anderson Brothers CPA. E, approval of Welch Comer Engineers, Inc., additional services agreement for 4th and Honeysuckle Roundabout project, and F, bills for payment. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar as read?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember DeLang?
Yes.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Roder?
Yes.
And Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Item 4, unfinished business action item request, and this is due to additional information that was not available previously. Joe, do you have the pulpit then? We're okay, because you didn't get a chance to speak last time. I want to make sure. Okay. Please go ahead. And council members have a binder associated with this. So, Joe, the time is yours.
Okay, great. Do I need to give address and name?
You do.
Okay. Joe Raymond, 1312 West Centennial Place in Coeur d'Alene. And I'm going to share this guy here for you. That work? All right. So I was here 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to first, actually, I'm going to kind of present and then maybe go Q&A if I need to. I don't know how it works exactly, but maybe you guys can kind of guide me as I get going here. But good evening, Mayor and City Council members and staff. I was here 2 weeks ago. I sat out in the audience, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot of what I was supposed to do and what I didn't do. And I wanted to give myself a better opportunity to present to you guys what our business is. Uncorked with Friends, obviously, is what you can see there.
Just for the record, not only that, you have new information that was not available.
Correct.
That's an important part of
All right.
why you're here.
I have a
While you're speaking,
I have a
so.
lot of presentation, or would you want me just to get straight to that?
No, it doesn't, but that's the reason you're able to be here.
Okay, yes. So there is new information, which I will get to on the next slide for you, but
And based upon individual input, it was important information.
Yes,
That's the
indeed.
reason. So the fact that that there's new information is vital to the ability that you have to be able to move forward
Okay.
today.
all right.
How did I do? Am I doing good, you guys? Okay, for civics? Good. Thank you.
I mean, I have like a 6-7 minutes of stuff I wanted to go over. Is that okay?
It's now up to you. I just wanted to make sure for the record that that was identified.
Okay, so a quick background. Brought my wife in for here. If you have any questions, you might be able to help out with me. And then I brought my kiddos here to show them how government works in dealing with the different things you want to do when trying to open a business. So I thought it'd be a good learning experience for them. Hopefully you had a chance to check the binder, kind of go over some of the things that were in there. I had a long 2-page piece in there, but also I had a family business before. I owned it for 7 years with my wife and my brother. And my wife and I actually decided to open a business in the city of Hayden. And we found the property, which is perfect. On the property in discussion is 9443 North Government Way. For a reference point, that's right next to Ski Shack. And right in there in the central business corridor. After some discussion, that we realized that the Vine Church, which was a building across next to us, across the driveway and over, was within that 300-foot mark. We realized that that's a local and a state statute or rule that's in place. But the municipality, AKA the city of Hayden, has the ability to override that on a case-by-case basis. They don't have to necessarily say yes to one and it opens up. It doesn't set a precedence. It's a one at a time licensee approval, basically. And for an example, in the city of Nampa in 2020, they approved a wine and beer license that was within 300 feet of 3 separate churches. They contacted all 3 churches. Nobody responded or cared, and they granted them the license. So next page here is from the pastor of the Vine Church. Previously, last meeting, he obviously, if you saw that, he said, I want them there, I'll probably visit the place. I contacted him last week just to chat with him and say, hey, are you in the process ever of moving? Because right now you're in the middle of where it used to be a CPA office. And he goes, as a matter of fact, I am. I'm actually, as he says, God willing, hoping to be able to move by December 2021. And that, to me, made a huge difference in the whole situation of this. And it was just a blessing in disguise. I just randomly asked, is it going to be 6 months, a year, or whatever? And he's like, I'm actually in the process of doing it right now. So that was pretty important to me. And when I was talking to him, I asked him if where he's located, if he had a conditional use permit for being in the central business corridor, because I was looking at the zoning and he is in, if you look over down Government Way, he is in the Pie Shop, Capone's, the Fast Trip Vapor Shop, the Realty Shop, Ski Shack, Triple Play, UPS store, and then right in the middle of it is a church there. So he said he didn't know, and he was going to look into it, but he wasn't able to get back to me before the meeting. So I don't know if he is there with the correct permits. That might be something you guys might be able to answer at a later time.
No bearing on your request, just to let you know.
No, I just
Okay.
wasn't sure. So this is kind of a picture. So we have a place that we've been looking at to model after, and this is basically their wine shop. So what it is, when we say a wine and beer, it's not a bar, and I don't like that term. It's more of a storefront with business places for business people to come in and purchase wine and take home, or the ability to go behind the back half of the store and go to a state-of-the-art wine facility that has a wine bar that you can purchase wine by the ounce, and you have wine glasses that you can grab and pour and sit down in the lounge and relax and have a glass before you go home. And lastly, there's also going to be a meeting in another section where you can have meeting rooms going on where you don't have to drink wine when you go in there. You can just go in and have a meeting in our business conference room for a nominal fee. And it's, in the end, in closing, I think the biggest key points is obviously the Vine Church coming in and saying that they're going to be moving. That was new information that I was just got lucky enough to ask and think about, and sure enough, he was like, absolutely. I think it's a great thing for us to be there. We can pay it. We're going to be paying taxes as City of Hayden. We're going to be hiring employees in the city. We're going to be driving more traffic, although traffic in the central business corridor may not be what we need right now, but but we're going to donate to good causes for the community and sports teams and various charities. And I would hope that you guys can help and let us know what you think.
In addition, for additional information, I did some research on the statute with respect to churches. Churches, when the statute was put on, and this is from talking to other individuals within the state, is that the statute was put into place because they didn't want them next to a traditional church somewhere. This Vines is meeting in a commercial area in the central business district. So there's some differences with respect to the statute in that it was not next to a standalone church building,
If it was,
which is what that statute alluded to. Not necessarily, I mean, we have to interpret as a council, but that was new information as well. So, any questions for Joe, please?
I have some. I wasn't here
Yes,
last time, so.
I figured.
So if my questions are redundant, please forgive me, but are you going to have any limits on drinks? How many?
Yes. Just go ahead if you have more questions. Is that the question?
Yes.
Yes. So that wine bar here, it actually has an electronic card that you insert into the, has a chip on there that you can limit to how many ounces you can get, how many quarters you can get in a 24-hour period, or you can turn somebody's card off. I mean, you just literally can take their card and say that ID card is shut off permanently. Like,
Wow. High tech even here.
So it's $40,000 for that. Those 24 bottles you see lined up across that thing, that's a $40,000 dispenser. Very expensive soda machine, but wine.
One of my other concerns is with that building, there's not a lot of parking, except I think it's in the back.
On the north side of...
North side?
It's the old RDI building.
Right.
There's 11 parking spots. Well, there's 3 or 4 in front of us, and there's 7 or 8 on the side of us, in between there and Pearl Realty.
So you're able to meet all the city codes and as far as parking
yes, as far as I can tell, yes.
All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
However, I mean, within that question, Donna's not here, by the way. I hope she's feeling better, but within that, there'll still be other parking questions and other things addressed, correct? Or
Yeah,
has it
at the
already
time
been
of-
addressed?
I mean, I don't think they'll come in for a site plan review or anything, since they're not doing anything new in the space. I'm looking at Rob just for
Rob is
for
the site plan
pre-development.
guy,
Rob would
yeah.
know.
So typically, we always recommend a pre-development meeting for anyone who is considering purchasing property.
I'm renting the building.
You're doing great, just wait.
Okay,
You're
sorry.
doing- okay.
But so I guess this would be for, I don't know, I think if there's a change of use, there could be, additional requirements, but it's not my bailiwick, it would be Donna's and
That's what I mean, so
planning.
Donna's not here, but,
Right.
but looked at no matter what.
Typically, we always recommend someone come in for a pre-development meeting
Thank you.
to just kind
So
of,
even if we were to approve it, he's still got to jump through the hoops to actually have it happen?
Correct.
Correct. I'm just trying to get this part so I can move forward.
Yes, please.
Just one thing, there is parking in the back. You didn't mention anything about that, but.
Correct.
Quite a bit of parking behind the building, too.
And I don't know if that is mine to be allowed. It's all dirt behind
don't
there.
know either, but
I guess I could. I'd have to find out from the landlord of whose parking that is, but it is a possibility.
Is Reverend Schultz, I didn't see him. He is not here.
No.
Go ahead.
Unless Jerry has some, I'd like to ask.
Go ahead.
Do you know what the distance is? Does the statute that dictates the distance, does it say from door to door? Or how does
Yes,
that work?
it's from door to door, from entrance to entrance, and it's a straight line no matter what.
And how far are you?
111 feet.
Okay.
But we face east and they face north. And there's a business between us, a driveway, and then them.
So then this is a question I have. Is there a chance that if the business needs extra overflow parking, they can actually use the public parking on the urban renewal parking that we lease from them, the city leases? That would be across the street. Can that be counted into, because of the business district, could that somehow be factored in?
Well, I wouldn't.
It's up.
Rob,
So
you got a
Councilman
comment?
Roder, great question.
Rob's got a comment on that.
Go ahead,
so
Rob.
there are parking credits within the central business district, number one, and then I think there are also credits if you're within X number of feet of public parking. So, and that's something that we always address in the pre-development meetings.
So
Well,
that's,
because we want you to succeed, and if you're short on parking, it makes it more difficult.
Okay.
go ahead.
Most important question, during service at the Vine Church, do they serve wine during communion?
No, but the pastor, when I've talked to him multiple times, he's definitely.
That's not a serious question.
He's definitely going to visit. He's like, I did joke around. He's like, we should do a wine label with the vine. He's all, great, fine. So
One of the things that is involved in the city of Hayden, as well as the state liquor store, abuts, is that a correct term? The back of the state liquor store abuts to a group of worshipers that are next to the back end. So,
Now I'm going to give you the deer in the headlights look.
yeah, that's okay, but the door to door
That one building.
is
yeah.
different because one faces east and one faces west, but they abut in the middle, which is an interesting experience. Reverend Schultz did say that he was excited to have you and wanted to make sure that I understood, how do I say this? Because I didn't talk with him directly, but that he recognized that he was in a business district. And that was, in his mind, that was a major factor. So, any other questions for Joe or Mr. Raymond?
One, if I may, I guess is more for Caitlin. Because there is a potential move here, can we predicate our approval based on the sale of the church moving, or how can we accommodate this staying within the law?
Well, the law does allow you to approve it even under the 300 feet. That's found in two places in Title 23. It says, except with the approval of the governing body of the municipality. So it can't be within 300 feet except your approval. So there is a process for an owner, a licensee, to come to you and request, hey, I can't be within 300 feet under the state law unless you allow me to be. There's no standards for that, though. It's discretionary on your part, but that's what he's coming here under that process. Our city code mirrors the state code exactly. So, you know, finding that he is within 300 feet, so he's undergoing the process of requesting from you to be under that requirement, which is allowed under the state code and our code. No
You
other.
said it much better than I did.
Well, there's no other standards, so I think that's part of the difficulty here is, you know, most things we talk about, we have some set standards for the things we consider. We don't have that in this instance. It's not in the state code of items to consider. It just says can't be within 300 feet unless the municipality allows otherwise.
So Caitlin.
Go ahead.
One of my concerns is precedence. If we say yes to this, how do we say no to another one that's a totally different
Right.
situation?
I don't think, I agree with the applicant that I don't think for a separate property there's a precedent concern, just as any kind of conditional use permit doesn't set precedents for the next one on a different request. I don't think, hey, they got one, so I want one, you know, is a valid argument. I do think, though, for this specific property, and maybe that's not concerning in the church, maybe that's not a concern anyway, and certainly not one if the church is moving. I do think the ability to do that likely stays with this premises until this premises has a change in use. If somebody tomorrow, if you open, wants to come in and buy out your business and you transfer that license, I think obviously they have some material understanding that they're going to be able to use it, and since it's already being used within 300 feet, they don't need to come back to you for that. So I think that continues with the use for this space. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Special use permits do the same thing. They kind of go with the premise as long as the use is, as long as it's being used that way. But I don't think, you know, outside of this location and just somebody somewhere else in the city, somebody comes in to request it, I don't think well, hey, you did it for Uncorked by Vine, so, you know, I should get it too, is going to be valid.
So let's turn it around. Let's say there's no church there now. He has his business, and a church comes in there.
No issue. The statute says that specifically.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Shall not apply to any duly licensed premises that at the time of licensing did not come within the restricted area, but subsequent to licensing, they came therein.
So if the Vine Church moves and another church moves in, it's a
problem.
different ballgame.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Since there was a previous motion, does this motion need to be amended, or is it simply timing associated with this meeting?
There's timing associated with the meeting if council's wanting to approve it, knowing that, well, and it's here before you tonight under information that the church is looking to move. And the church, I mean, there's a letter submitted. I think they also have, I spoke to Donna today on other things, and she mentioned to me she would be able to be at this meeting, but one item, I believe the church has a pre-development scheduled next week or the week after. So they are trying to move. They've purchasing property.
But it is conditional.
Yeah, they don't know that nothing's a guarantee, but they are trying to leave that space.
So council, the new information is conditional, meaning might was used in the letter, if you read it, with respect to Vine Church. And the other new information or different is that the church is located within a commercial district, not a standalone church within the central business district, which further allows for options associated with the state statute. Do we have any motion from council?
Yes, I would make a motion.
Not motion.
And my motion would be to approve this, but the last meeting, my question was with the church there. Then I looked at this church and I wondered at the time, but we didn't have any information. It is not really a location for a permanent church to be long-term. But we didn't have any answers to that at the last meeting. So I would make a motion to approve this one, even though it's only 111 feet or something like that, but this church has already approved it, and they have no problem with it, and I think legally we're on solid ground to do that.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I guess I would add that obviously the church has put in writing that they're waiting to make a deal. That tells me that they're going to move even if this deal doesn't come through. So, you know, I guess they want to go somewhere else. They want their own home. I don't blame them.
They don't have enough room, and they don't have enough
don't.
parking, so. Any further discussion?
I'd like to add to that, just that I think most churches in the area, they're all bursting at the seams, which is a good thing. And so I can understand, because that church has been there for quite a while.
Within 5 years.
Yeah, so that I can see, based on the information that they want to move and understanding the churches are growing, I support this.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Roder?
Yes.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLang?
Yes.
And Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Danielle, are you on the line? I did not see her.
Yes, I am. I'm on.
Okay. We are on item number 5, new business action item H6, Sewer Basin Local Improvement District Resolution for reimbursement. So it seems like it's more than just a virtual tour. Caitlin or Brett, do you want to start us off, please?
Well, maybe we can just go in order. I'm going to ask Alan to also weigh in on this. So we've got, our group has to look at this. There's multiple pieces. There's the technology side, there's the land use side of things, and then we also have the attorney, both attorneys helping with this to look at forming a local improvement district to help pay for the H6 lift station. And so with that, Alan had put a memo in there. Alan, maybe he's got a couple minutes, and then let's turn it over to Danielle.
I leave it to you.
To speak for the podium.
It's up to you.
Okay.
It's up to
So
you,
I think
Brett.
I did put a memo in your packet, just a quick summary of that. We have been looking at ways of getting the H6 basin constructed, lift station, gravity sewer mains, and force mains to the treatment plant for over 3 years now. And we've had a couple opportunities. We have an opportunity now to do it maybe with an LID, which would put the cost of that a large portion of the cost of squarely on development. The holdback has been, of course, trying to find a place for our lift station. We now believe we've got an opportunity to purchase the property we would need for that lift station. And so we have started moving forward with the design and the process. And so with that, I think Danielle has just some informational outline to the council about what we're proposing from an LID standpoint, what that's going to look like over the next 4 or 5 months, and what's going to come before you. And then I think she has a resolution, and I think she can do a good job of explaining all that would say that's tied to all of this.
Alan, clarification, in the packet, both electronically as well as physically, there were 2 memos. One dated, and I want to make sure the second memo has an X through it, but yet that is attached to the resolution. So does the X only apply to the letter?
Mayor, the memo that was in your packet was incorrect, and that is why it's X'd out. But what's electronic and the one that the other
It's
original
perfect.
is correct.
And the resolution accompanying that letter then is correct as well?
Correct.
Thank you.
So are you ready for me, Mayor and Council?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi there. I apologize for not being there.
Please state who you are, your address, and who you are representing in the process, so we're clear.
I'm Danielle Quaid, and I'm with Holly Troxel, and we're representing the city as Finance Council on this proposed LID. So just to give you a little bit of background, I know that this idea has been percolating for a while to figure out a way to do this H6 lift station and have some participation from the property owners that are going to be benefited. So we've been talking about that and looking at that and talking to individual property owners about, whether they would want to voluntarily participate, and that is what we're looking at this point, is that it would be property owners who voluntarily participate, and then with some participation by the city to get the H6 lift station built and functional for that portion of your city. We had been kind of at a standstill without the property, and with potential for that to be identified, we started talking about it again. And this first step today is just to give you the ability to move quickly when and if the time is ready and you so decide. The resolution that's before you is called the Reimbursement Resolution. It's an IRS-driven document that allows you to state your intent to issue tax-exempt financing for the project, and it would be, in the form of an LID. But it allows you to reimburse yourself if the city decides to utilize its own funds prior to the issuance of the LID for the acquisition of property or for any other costs related to the project. So,
But what does it, Danielle, sorry about that, but I want to make sure that we're clear what this resolution does not do. This is not forming an LID.
No, absolutely not. And it's not binding you to do anything. It's just stating for IRS purposes that you have intent at some point in the future to seek tax-exempt financing. Because what the IRS doesn't want you to do is decide after the fact that you're going to issue tax-exempt bonds. Because if they think that you have money to pay for the cost of the project, they don't want you to borrow from it. Because they view tax-exempt bonds as a drain on the Treasury. So they only want you to borrow if you really need to borrow to complete the project. So this is just them making you evidence your intent that at some point you may issue tax-exempt bonds, but it's totally non-binding. And I mean, if you have the resolution there in front of you, when you're looking at the actual language of the resolution, it gives a description of the project as well as the provisions that the IRS allows in terms of when you can reimburse yourself. So from the date of adoption of this resolution, you can reimburse yourself backwards for 60 days for any costs that are previously incurred. There's an estimated project cost that we believe is very high, but we have to put something in, and we want to be on the high side so that later, if the costs do come in high, you can say that was what you expected. And that's really all there is to it in terms of this resolution. Does anyone have any questions on that specifically? And then after consideration of that, I can kind of talk about the LID process more generally.
Anybody have questions for Danielle?
I just have one, and I don't have the electronic corrected letter or memo in front of me. I just have the one that was in my packet. So maybe this was...
That is the corrected one. The one without there's one with an X in it.
Yeah, I don't have an X. Okay, so my question then is it's in the second paragraph. It says a number of larger landowners in the north have grouped together to support forming an LID. Who are these larger landowners?
Probably a better question for Alan or Donna if she's there.
I don't have that list.
I think I've got most of and I have it in my email. I believe it's, hang on, Council Stafford Development.
Brett, didn't you?
Yeah, I was going to say, I pulled that.
Properties.
I seen an email with names.
I sent it out, there was a question.
But this does not...
It's Golden Glow, it was the church, it was
Yeah.
Stafford Homes, it was Tedder
Properties,
Aspen Homes.
Yeah, there's like 6. Golden Glow has a requirement not to contest in their annexation agreement, so they're lumped in.
But this resolution does not create an LID.
No, he's just asking.
I
in
know,
the
I
memo.
understand, but I mean, I want to make sure.
Who was
'cause I don't want to play,
Nope.
I don't want, I'll take it off the agenda. I
This
mean,
isn't the
okay.
first process to create an LID. It's simply that the city's incurring costs and forming it and, trying to meet and plan for this, and we want to get reimbursed for it.
Perfect.
It's Stafford Homes, Tedder, Rad Properties, Golden Glow. I think the Seventh Day Church is included in that too. Yeah, Staff Property and Aspen Homes. They've submitted letters to the city saying, yeah, they would be interested in participating in the LID.
And Councilmember Roeder, that's in the second paragraph of the one that I'm looking at, the correct memo. So you should.
You mean the names?
Yeah, no, just that what you had read.
Okay.
What you had
Yeah,
read
it's in the
is
memo.
I'm just curious
correct in
as
that,
to
so.
Yep.
who the company is and
They've submitted letters to a few of them have submitted letters to the city saying, yeah, we would participate. Some are required by annexation agreements not to contest the formation of the LID. They could contest their assessments, but they don't contest to being included in an LID.
So any additional questions for Danielle?
I think it'd be helpful if Danielle spoke on just kind of the LID generally. You recall Melissa and I spoke to the city about that, but I believe that's been some time ago, 6 months or more.
But the resolution, and I want to make sure that we stay on course.
Yeah, there's
This has nothing to do with the creation of or approval for an LID.
No, they're separate, but this is staff time and everything, so I guess we just
I
want to make
think
sure.
that's good. Let's do the resolution, or at least if council's okay with that.
That's fine.
And then we'll talk about the LID
Really to kind
formation.
of bring the council up to
We
speed,
need to
because we,
get up to speed.
once we found out we had property, bring up to speed, that we're starting to head that
Which
direction.
I'm not trying to go around. I just want to separate one from the other. I want that to be looked at.
That's fine.
And discussed. It's separate from the resolution that the council has in front of them. So are there any other questions associated with the resolution? And we'll do that, at least the intent is to do that, if council approves prior to then Danielle bringing information to the table with respect to the LID itself. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution that has been put forward with respect to the city of Hayden, Kootenai County, Idaho, declaring its official intent to reimburse certain reimbursable expenses relating to certain projects for local improvement district, no number listed, from tax exempt obligations and providing an effective date?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
yes.
Council President Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, council. Now, Danielle, we'll turn the time over to you.
Sure. Well, so in terms of the process for how an LID could potentially move forward, to the extent the council determines that they want to move forward with an LID to assist in the financing of H6, it's really about a 4 to 5 meeting process from start to finish to create the LID, at which point you could seek interim financing to build the project, and then at the end of building the project, there's another 3 to 4 meeting sequence before you actually fix the assessment, and the assessment roll is approved. So it's quite a process. But to get started, the very first resolution is just an intention to begin, a resolution of intent to begin the process. And to do that, we need a description of the project, which we have now, and we need a description of the boundary. And that's going to be, we are talking about that and going to need to work on that, because as we discussed before, this is going to be an LID. The intent is for this to be an LID of all voluntary participants. So we're going to have to draw a boundary around the properties of the folks that want to participate in the LID. And so that first resolution is just saying, hey, the city has intent to begin to consider this. And that would be adopted at one meeting. At a subsequent meeting, to the extent that we're moving forward, the city would consider a resolution to initiate the LID and adopt a notice of public hearing. So at that point, the city is going to call a public hearing to take people's protests and comments on whether or not to create the LID. Because it's a voluntary LID, we don't expect a lot of public to come out in opposition to it. But that public hearing that's called during the second resolution would be held at the third meeting related to the LID. At that, to call that public hearing, we have to have additional information that we didn't need for the first resolution, including, who's going to be on the assessment roll and how many, taking each property owner and breaking it down by how many hookups they're going to have, because they're going to be assessed in comparison to the number of hookups that they have, or for the number of hookups that they have. And Alan can weigh in if he wants on how we expect to do that. My understanding is that we expect to do that based on what the sewer master plan says. Is that accurate, Alan?
I think that's what we're leaning towards, to make it more apples to apples for all participants.
And at that time also, because the way that because H6 will benefit not only these property owners who are voluntarily participating, but also benefit the city in creating additional capacity, there's going to be a portion of the project that would have to be paid for by the city, contributed to the LID by the city. And that also has to be determined prior to that meeting where we call the public hearing.
And those funds, just to be clear, would come out of our capitalization fees for that purpose. So it's not something that the existing citizens would pay the monthly fee to pay for that expansion.
So then from there, everybody who is included in the LID will get a mailed notice, as well as we'll do a published notice in the paper 3 days in a row, 2 weeks prior, and then we'll hold the public hearing and take comment from property owners who would be participating in the LID to the extent they have any. After that, at the fourth meeting, the city would consider an ordinance to actually create the LID. And once that ordinance is adopted, then we can move forward with seeking construction financing, essentially, for the project. But as you can see, we're very early on in the process, and there's a lot of work to be done. The costs of the project have to be dialed in significantly from where they are right now. And JEB would work on that. So that's kind of just a sketch. I didn't want to put dates to anything because there's so many of these items that are up in the air that we don't really know when we're going to have the information that we need. Once we do, then we can, put together a timeline that we can share with the council in terms of how it would lay out to the extent you determine to go forward.
Perfect. Any questions for Danielle? It's just preliminary data. Go ahead.
I do. You said a lot of stuff there that I'm trying to think about, and I know you deal with this all the time. So my understanding is that an LID is a tax that a group of people agree to have them taxed to pay for some kind of improvement. And so you're saying...
It's not a tax. Let me stop you right there, council member. It's an assessment on real property.
So...
Not a tax.
Okay, so how is the money collected?
The city collects it either semi-annually or annually. I don't know how Donna and Sandy are collecting other LIDs currently, but typically it's collected semi-annually or annually. And then if payments are not made to the city, then you can certify those costs to the county, and the county will help you collect them as part of the following property tax assessment. But it's distinct, very distinct from a property tax. It's an assessment which has to be equivalent to the benefit derived from the property owner.
And is that a fixed amount, or is it somehow tied into the value of the property?
The assessments can't exceed the value of the property with the improvements on them. But otherwise, it's not tied to the value of the property. It's tied to the value of the benefit derived.
So, okay, because you said it's a voluntary thing, but yet the city will be obligated to participate in financing of it, which is not voluntary.
So LIDs don't have to be voluntary. You as the city could create an LID on a group of property owners' property for a project that you determine benefits them and is necessary. So like the kind of typical LID that you would see would be for like sidewalks in a neighborhood, right? Like the city decides that you have an ordinance that requires sidewalks, this neighborhood doesn't have sidewalks, so you assess all of the property owners in the neighborhood and you put the sidewalks in. So that's a case where you could, over the property owner's objection, put the assessment on the property. In this case, my understanding is that these property owners are coming to the city saying, we want to help you fund this because we can't develop without H6. So they're going to voluntarily submit to being part of the LID, but we can only assess them for their benefit. So like I said, the assessment has to be tied directly to the benefit. And so if we create twice as much capacity as those property owners need, and that property is going to benefit then the city because you can allow other people to hook up using that capacity, the city, have to pay for that pro rata portion of the project. Does that make sense? Am I answering your question?
Which we need to walk
I understand.
carefully through.
There's a lot of information. LIDs are new to me. I don't know anything about them, so that's what I'm asking.
And one thing for council, I think it's important because it happened, I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, is that the city failed to charge for an LID created, this is okay to say since it's already in, where Lacey and Strayhorn come together. Kind of in the southeast portion of that, there was an LID created, and the city, this was created years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and the city failed to bill property owners with respect to their LID portion, and it created hardship. So we have to make sure that we bill correctly. I mean, if you bought a house and suddenly found out that the LID was not paid for correctly, I mean, that's an issue. If I have to pay another $5,000 or something. So we need to make sure when we move forward that we're completely open and that we bill correctly. Sandy, are you on the phone?
She is.
Okay. I just want to make sure. So that's down the road. But when they talk about tax and assessment, it's dollars. Whatever we call it, it has four legs and walks, and so it's a financial obligation that those that are in the LID need to be aware of, and we need to work with. But you're not even near creating it. So, any other questions for Danielle? Danielle, thank you. Are you still in your office, or is that another office?
This is my new office.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, all.
Visitor comments, Dale Rollins, if you'd like to go and move forward, and then we'll hear from Ed DePriest, Sandy White, and Art Collins.
Dale Rollins, West 1474 Miles Avenue. Well, I'm still trying to process this LID here. We have a deer problem. I'll try to make this really short because I know y'all got a lot of stuff that's more important than this. But I have a really bad deer problem, and it's not only on Miles Avenue, it's all over the city. And I don't know where y'all live, but on Dakota Avenue, which my property backs up to, there's a gentleman there by the name of Mr. Nichols. He has probably had 10 acres back there that's wooded. There's a deer refuge back there. There's probably between 20 and 30 head of deer in there. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the deer problem down south. There's a disease down there. It hasn't, to my knowledge, made it up here. But there's a problem with all of the deer coming into the city. There's a lot of people moving into the communities here that think Bambi's really cute. Bambi grows up. So we have this problem, and it isn't just deer. I was working in my driveway this summer, and I turned around, and there's a big cow elk. The game is coming into the city. So I went to the game department, and I asked them what I needed to do, and they said that they have came to the city of Hayden and approached you people, and I don't know all the dates and what have you. You all probably have it in record someplace, but anyways, they said they had worked with you and things were going along, and then all of a sudden it all dropped. So what I'm asking is for you to at least look into this problem and try to do something. I know the game department told me they've tried to trap them. They've tried different avenues that they're not working. So for me, it's like, it's up to you people in the game department to take care of the problem. I can do it. Just give me the heads up. I can give you all venison next week if y'all want it. Not a problem. But all kidding aside, it really is a problem, because if this game, and not only that, my neighbor across Ramsey, she calls me up, and she passed away now, but she calls me up and she said, you need to come look at this. I go over there, and it was bear's cat. I know what I'm looking at. I've been hunting just about all my life. So wildlife does not belong in this city. And all I'm doing is asking y'all to try to do something. I don't expect this problem to be handled overnight. I would just like you to, hash it out. Get back with the game department and try to do something. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Ed DePriest.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to kind of bear with me here. I'm negative, 6 weeks out, but I can't shake the cough, so if I'm talking, usually spurs a fit, so I'll try and get through this. Ed DePriest, 8116 North Stonehaven Drive. Good evening. I'm glad 48 hours notice is not required before speaking, so I appreciate that. Boy, what an interesting time this is, okay? I'm talking about two things tonight, and it's based off my observations of the last 9 months of attending planning meetings, council meetings, and everything. First of all, it's going to be the future land use map. To me, it's a consummating document. At the planning, zoning, and council hearings, it's a document that removes the ability of the P&Z and the council to really look at the current situation to see the project, how it fits in that point in time. The 2019 zone map appears to me, which must have been what the future land use map at that time that it was approved. It was how the city apparently wanted it developed. Well, when it was approved, okay, here's the zoning, here's what we see right now, and it appears to have been approved for that. So what was the need for the future land use map? The main difference that I see is the addition of, by numbers Mr. Boyer showed me, around 1,400 acres of mixed use purple on the map. At the low end of 12 dwelling units per acre, that's 16,800 dwellings. 2 people, 2 vehicles, that's 33,600 people and vehicles in the city of Hayden alone. Why didn't they build the comprehensive map around the 2019 zone map? Here's what I've witnessed the last 9 months. The city first comes in and sells the project. Here it is, here's the location, et cetera. The T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and it meets the criteria and is compatible to the future land use map. The applicant then comes up and basically says, yeah, what they said, and it's going to be affordable. Well, what's affordable? Well, I can't tell you right now, but it's going to be affordable. Then the people speak, often many who live in the area, and they oppose the project. Then there's the discussion. What ends up happening is, well, it conforms to the comprehensive plan and is compatible to the future land use map. That seals it. It gets their underlying element of litigation if you don't approve it, because it is in the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. Stay with the 19 zone map, let the applicant request zone changes like they have in the past. Here's what I often hear related to the comp plan and all that. The city planners say, well, we've consulted with architects, developers, builders, real estate people, et cetera. These are the people primarily the driving force behind it from what I observed. The criteria and the map are set up, which ensures approval, regardless of what the people who might want, or there is an underlying threat of litigation, again, if you don't approve it. Stay with the 19, let them ask for their zone change. Don't give them the legal tool of it's compatible with the future land use map, okay? If it fits and will be beneficial to the city and the people of the city at that point in time, then approve it. Please give the people some weight in this process because they don't have any now. On the second issue, real quick, a letter from Jeff Bowler regarding the capacity of the schools. Tell the people the facts. Many of the Coeur d'Alene schools are at or over the capacity of the projected growth is going to result in the need for at least a new middle, probably a new high school, and likely new elementary school in the next 5 to 10 years. In today's dollars, that will require a bond or bonds, approximately $100 million. That's tax dollars. We're going to have to pay for it. Maybe if the cities, and I realize the school has to say in their agency letters, we can't handle anymore, but they're being political and don't want to go down that road. Hopefully it would come to that time, and maybe the cities would tell the developers, school district can't handle anymore, so we can't handle anymore until we find a funding vehicle to build new schools instead of having to go to the people for these bonds. Then maybe the NIBCA and the industry lobbyists would tell the people in Boise, we need impact fees on development to build new schools. The city and cities are going to just keep pounding the people in. Then it would be like when Coeur d'Alene High School was split shifted and the people were basically forced to foot the bill for the bonds to build Lake City. So again, this is all related to the fact of as we allow more and more growth, this particular issue, the schools are going to continue to be crowded. Many of them are at or over capacity already, and we do need the impact fees. And I realize that's a state issue, but the cities have to create the situation where the developers, basically, the building lobby, forces the people in Boise to say, okay, you can have impact fees to build the future schools. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Sandy White.
Hello, my name is Sandy White. I live at 939 West D Court in Hayden. And I'd like to start by reading Article 1, Section 1 of the Idaho Constitution. All men are by nature free and equal and have certain inalienable rights, among which are enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, pursuing happiness, and securing safety. So protecting our property is our constitutional right. The future land use map is threatening our property. It suddenly changes what your neighbors can do right next to you and behind you. It changes the way you can use your own property or even improve it. There are so many ways that it can change Hayden as we now know it. 7 months ago, I was given this letter in the mail. It's a badly written and undated letter that shook my world. Why in the world would this city council vote to change the zoning of 1,700 existing properties, allowing people to build so much more density next door to us than ever before? I've been to almost every meeting, workshop, and town hall since then in order to stop it. But then in the last city council meeting, it confirmed to me that the city council doesn't have the interest of the true stakeholders at heart. Based on your accepting the standards for mixed use and mixed residential, the true stakeholders are not the developers and the builders listed in the 2040 comprehensive plan, but the almost 17,000 residents in the city of Hayden. By approving the design standards for mixed use and mixed residential, the floodgates of dense housing have been opened. People were poised and ready to spring on applying. I'm seeing notices of zone change pop up around Hayden, and it's troubling. I'm one of the 17,000 stakeholders in Hayden that were not asked if we wanted our zones changed. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to run for city council. My home, as well as the homes of my neighbors, are in a sea of purple, which is mixed use, and something has to change. I hope and pray that the residents here see the danger and get out to vote next Tuesday on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Art Collins?
Can I take my mask off? Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't want to get the damn virus. Okay. Art Collins, 1214 Glenmore Court, Hayden Avenue. I'm just going to raise a question that's not on the agenda. It's just a question, that's all. Okay. Is there an advisory impact fee committee of the city of Hayden? Advisory Impact Fee Committee. Does it exist?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Does it, how many members are there?
7 or 8?
Six to 8 probably.
7 or 8?
I'd have to count them.
If you count, there's some city staff that attend but there's, and they're going to be.
Not to use up Art's time, but and Art, could you make sure that Art gets all the information, that he's not limited to his 5 minutes?
Yeah, if you would like information about that committee, we can.
Well, when was it appointed, or when was it implemented? When did it happen?
Years ago.
How many years ago? 3 years ago, 4, 5?
But you have to have Abby check when we started to have an impact fee, because that's when we did our ordinance to create it, and when we first started collecting impact fees.
It's been more than 5 years ago, I can say that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll just raise the question to be kind. I'm trying to be kind to the city. The present comprehensive plan does not have an adequate legal foundation for such a committee. It ain't there. You have an action plan to do it, but there's no goal or goals or policies. And a comprehensive plan says that there must be a requirement, goals, policies, and actions. So my concern is, if you get into any kind of legalization, any litigation with impact fees, this is tough stuff, folks. I, as a taxpayer, do not want to pay for the retirement program of attorneys with litigation. Because what if some people says, I'll be whatever, I ain't going to do the impact fees. Now you're into litigation. And you got the comprehensive plan is the legal, it's not a guide. No, it's not a guide. It is a legal foundation for ordinances and regulations. Okay, I want to be kind to say, if you're going to have the Planning and Zoning Commission has a legal justification in the comp plan. But it's inadequate in terms of an advisory impact fee committee. I'm trying to be kind, folks. That's all. They need some work. That's all. The comprehensive plan needs some work.
Thank you. And thank you for those making comments and for being patient as we moved your comment
Mr. Mayor?
agenda forward. Yes.
I don't know if this would be appropriate at this point of our council meeting, and citizens certainly have the right for public comment, but if there's misinformation, can our legal counsel correct it?
No, because it's not on, do whatever you need to do.
I mean, I'm
It's
happy
public comment,
to
so-
review Mr. Collins' comments on the comprehensive plan. We are also required by the Development Impact Fee Act, Title 67, Chapter 82 of Idaho Code, and what's required to even implement an impact fee, and we have done all of those things. So I'm happy to review those comments and review our comprehensive plan. And I can touch base with Brett and, of course, answer to the council any concerns on that. But it's not just the comprehensive plan that governs impact fees, is what I was saying.
And we had a lot of work on impact fees before, and a lot of work on deer and other things, so.
Well, and there were also comments from 2 other individuals that had some misinformation, and but we can't.
People can come and comment.
Okay,
And that's
thank
really
you.
important, so either way. Calendar items?
Well, now, there's a couple items, and I'm going to throw a slide up here shortly, but
I have got to go. I just got a text, so with that, Roger, for the last part of it, are you okay?
Sure.
Okay, there's nothing else on the agenda other than comments, so. And then Caitlin, make sure that, I should have had public comment identified before,
sure?
so.
The FY '22, it's off the side there. This is more of a follow-up when she pulls up. I just wanted to make you aware, this is all in our budget and what we've been talking about. Sorry, the green on the bottom isn't there, but just to keep you apprised, these are the major projects that we're working on and moving forward with, and shows, on a staff level why, for example, up in Public Works, they are so busy with lots of things that they've got going. The Ramsey Road Sewer is the #1 project. We've got a grant that we're working towards as far as construction of the road, but next year, Alan's been spending time on the Ramsey Road, the sewer, so we want to get the sewer line in before we do the road, so we're not tearing up road and doing things backwards. And so we're looking at putting that in with the capitalization fees and then possibly some ARPA money as well with that. But just know a lot of Alan's time is being spent on that. The Honeysuckle and 4th Street Roundabout is another project. It was mostly designed. It's like, 95% designed, and there's some minor pieces of property that we're trying to acquire. And so that's why tonight, in consent, we're asking for a little bit of help from Welch Comer, who did the design, to help with multiple things that were in there. But the city's portion of getting that roundabout in is up there as far as an estimated amount. Also, the contract on Public Works facility, that hasn't been decided, but it's in the ballpark. We've talked about using the one-time money to acquire a facility to move our Public Works facilities that are back here in another area. And then we've also talked about, this isn't as big a project, but it's significant for what we do, because right now we don't have the ability for people to go upstairs that are ADA, in the ADA category, and so it's not accessible upstairs. And so the upstairs remodel is, a large part of that is putting an elevator in and then moving the front office around. And so you approved Architects West to look at that, and they're working on that design and the elevator stuff. And then the H6 lift station. So I didn't put the amount on there, but you can see those are some significant projects that we're working towards to complete for next year. And so just an overview. These are contemplated in the budget, but we're starting to work on that. Wanted you to see that. Other things, we talked about the water tower to the north, just south of Lancaster, and so the engineering for our portion came back. It was under 10,000, and so we went ahead. It's 4,600, and so we're moving forward. That was to look at the engineering for the stairs and things attached to that water tank to the north, and so the engineer is working on that. Wanted you to, this is more a fun one, to save a date, December 8th. We do an annual, try to do an annual city holiday party. Last year, we didn't do it because of COVID. We did something else, and this year, we're looking to do it at, actually at Triple Play and at the hotel there, and bring in a caterer, bring just some food in so we can get together and celebrate some of the successes from this year. November 11th is Veterans Day at 11 a.m. again out here, and we just invite folks to keep that on their calendar to come for that. And then also, I sent you some information that the Honeysuckle group has been working on. It's some preliminary drawings, and so we're working on gathering more information, but just wanted to include you in some of those, some of the initial drawings, and so we're continuing to work on that and looking at addressing some of the issues down at Honeysuckle as far as parking and the boat launch. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Brett. Council roundtable. Matt, do you have anything?
No, I don't. Thanks.
Dick, do you have anything?
No, not right now, I'm fine. Thanks.
I have a few comments to bring to our city administrator's attention. In regards to your report about was it 10,000 for an engineering study on the water tower steps?
Yeah, so the council has given mayoral authority for 10,000 or less for expenditures, kind of a common thing to do. And so in that case, you guys, we discussed the water tower and to move forward with looking at the design and getting the costs associated with that to determine what we want to do with that park project. So it's the water tower concept with the walking pathway and other park things that would be just south of Lancaster there. Doesn't have a name yet for the park, so it's kind of just a...
I just wanted to mention that I had a citizen contact me that was concerned about safety issues and liability, and so should we be looking at those issues first before we spend more money on studies? Because I agree that this could have huge safety and liability issues.
Yeah, I think as part of what we talked about was that would all be part of this, that we would come forward with liability issues. I think our portion to look at the cost of the stairs, it's kind of the chicken and the egg, how much is this going to cost, and whether or not we would even want to do it. But liability hits me right off. I wonder, how are we going to set this up so that we don't have liability? Because some of the concepts that came out were a climbing wall and, a slide and things like that to make it really interesting. And when we have a fence around it and things like that. And so we will have answers for that, but the direction that we got from that meeting was to proceed with looking at the design cost, which they're paying for most of that. Our portion was just to look at the cost to add the stairs and the, what do you call it, the little overlook thing?
Overlook balcony.
The little overlook balcony thing, the cost to add that. So he was already doing the project overall, and we're just adding to look at that, and then we'll have some costs, and we'll give you a whole report on liability and whether or not, you want to move forward with the idea. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay. I have a few things to say. First of all, I'd like to put out there that I am not advocating for any candidate for city council. This comes from myself and how I vote, how I look at working for the citizens of the city of Hayden. So I'll proceed. Often used phrase that we hear a lot from our citizens, and you hear it at almost every city council meeting, is that people move here, people live here because they like that small town feel. I don't know that that has ever been actually defined. I don't know that you can define it. But we all kind of know what it feels like. I've lived here 60 years. I know what a small town feel is, okay? So I think that I have, and again, I'm speaking for myself, not the rest of council. I believe we've tried to do that. We talk about growth, we talk about traffic, we talk about density. That all pertains to the small town feel. But I feel that we're overlooking probably the most important portion, and that's our attitude towards it. We don't seem to want to talk to each other. We don't seem to want to work with each other. We want to just attack each other. Part of it is the fact that I have always tried to listen to my constituents, listen to the public. 100% no, because that's impossible. But we have tried to seek city input before making decisions. And if you don't believe that, ask the folks of Caraville Estates when we went to them and asked them if they wanted to approve an LID because it's their money. Did they want to put in sidewalks, sewers, et cetera? They said no. There were no legal reasons to say, no, you're all wrong. That's what they wanted. That's what we did. Ask the people off of Wyoming Avenue when we turned down duplexes because of the density situation. The folks that came out and spoke against that, we listened to them. The folks off of Dakota, when they wanted to build an apartment complex, again, the citizens came out and said, no, we don't want to see that. I have always tried to follow, when I could legally, what our constituents wanted us to do. We've even turned down some subdivisions because they weren't legal or because of citizen input. When Councilman Matt Roeder was first elected, I reached out to him to offer advice, offer direction, where the city was going, and to bring him up to speed with current events if he was interested, and he was. He was very welcoming, very receptive. One of the things that we addressed was the small town feel, and that I don't play politics. I like to look at when I'm on a council, and I've been on several, not just this council, that it's a team. We're to be honest, open with each other. We're to work with each other for the betterment of the city of Hayden. And that with that formula, we can overcome any issues that come up. We've kept Hayden taxes as low as most cities of our size in this state. With the we have roads to maintain, we have other services, snow plowing, parks, et cetera. We do it with the money we have. Are we the Taj Mahal? Absolutely not, but we can only do with what we have to do it with. My property taxes have doubled over the last 2 or 3 years. They didn't double because the city of Hayden doubled, tripled, or whatever their taxes. We can't do that anyway. We can only raise city taxes 3%. There's a lot of reasons my taxes, your property taxes went up, and that's evaluations. You have schools, you have the county, you have the fire district, you have a whole lot of other people that have a say when it comes to your taxes and how much you pay. And I encourage you, go home and look at your tax bill and you'll see how it's all listed. And the city is a very, very small portion of that. We don't have control over any of that stuff. Where I'm going with this is on October 17th, Councilman Roeder's PAC falsely claimed that he didn't mention me specifically, but the action taken involves me, so I will defend my actions. I will defend on how I vote. Am I 100% right? No, but I will defend how I vote because I've lived here 60 years. I want to do what's right for this area. Anyway, this claim from his PAC falsely claimed the council.
Object, we're getting into the political.
I'm speaking, Mr. Roeder. I'm in charge of the meeting. This has nothing to do with politics, which you are very familiar with.
Well, you're talking about political things.
No, I'm talking about how I voted, and if you would have the courtesy, which rarely is used by you, to let me finish, you will see that I am talking about how I voted, which I am entitled to talk about how I voted. No, it's responsibility to my constituents on why I voted a certain way.
It's political.
So anyway,
resources.
Anyway, this accused me of doubling taxes. This accused me of trying to raise property taxes in the future. What this vote that I made and I voted in favor of was to simply do what I just pointed out. Ask the citizens of the city of Hayden, do you want to pay more taxes to pay for more police, better roads? Do you want to increase your taxes? We don't have the ability to raise taxes. That's not even in our purview. That's what I voted on, was to send it to you people who live in the city of Hayden. You decide, it's your money. And that's exactly what we did. You said no. End of story. And even had the thing passed, if the voters would have approved it, it still wouldn't have doubled taxes. So that was another misstatement. Again, I'm not advocating anything. I'm simply wanting to explain my vote, how any of the other council voted. That's up to them to defend. Or I shouldn't say defend, but to verify or say what they want about it. I take my votes very seriously. This is why, as you can tell, I'm a little upset over this. I try to do what's best for the city of Hayden. That was a direct attack on myself, even though my name wasn't mentioned, but it was an attack on myself as well because of the way I voted. And any time that somebody falsifies why I voted a certain way, I will respond. And I'm not necessarily going to be nice about it, but I will respond. If the voters don't want me, they'll vote me out, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. So I guess I wonder if the politics in this city are going to continue, if the dishonesty and deceivement of the public in this city is going to continue. Aren't we really taking away the small town feel there? It's not just about traffic. It's not just about these other things. It's about attitude as well, because we're not going to be able to work the other stuff out if we don't start working together and have the attitude to make it work. Anyway, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to respond to that. And
anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I would like to respond because we
adjourn.
Okay, meeting adjourned.